Hey guys, this is Garrett Wong, also known as Ensign Harry Kim from Star Trek Voyager, and you're watching Astronomy Live.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stop.
Alright, welcome to Astronomy Live. So tonight, the headline is that I'm going to be tracking Comet Atlas, but I'm going to bury the headline for a minute, if you will all bear with me. Take a slight detour to an asteroid instead, 1998 OR2. So, we're going to be tracking Comet Atlas a little bit later this evening, but first, I want to get some data on this asteroid. This is a numbered asteroid, so that means its orbit is very well known. 52768 is the number. The systematic name is 1998 OR2, and it will be making a close pass by Earth later this month, I believe. Yes, according to spaceweather.com, April 29th, it will be 16.4 times the distance to the moon away from Earth. Now that's a pretty good miss. That's not really all that close a shave. I mean, in astronomical distances, I suppose it's closer than most asteroids, but still, it's not like this thing is going to be grazing Earth's atmosphere. But it is a fairly significantly sized rock, a couple kilometers in diameter, so it would make a big mess if it were to hit. But the orbit is very well known. There's no chance of impact. However, that hasn't stopped some people from making claims that it is threatening Earth. I mean, you can even find this in less reputable tabloids. So I do want to collect a little bit of data on this asteroid here, and hopefully be able to solve for the orbit. Let's see, what do we got going on here? Is this what I expected to see? I'm not so sure that it is what I expected to see in this first image. Oh dear. I'm not sure I'm locked onto the right coordinates. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm really not so sure I'm locked onto the right coordinates. I was a minute ago. Hum. Well, that's not encouraging. I don't recognize where I am. Okay. Well, that's annoying. I thought I had the right guide star in place, but I might have had a totally different guide star on my guide camera than I expected. Well, I can rectify it, because I know I was pointed at the right area earlier, but I didn't have the guide star set up yet. So I'm just going to go back to the coordinates that I was at before, and just steer it in there a little manually. Okay, I'm going to abandon the dark frame. It's going to take 5 minutes to do, which is just not what I need right now. Alright, hang on. Okay. Turn off autosave for a moment. I'm going to do a quick image and just verify that I'm now pointed where I think I should be. 15 seconds ought to do it. I'll close that. the autoguider is already calibrated, the adaptive optics are already calibrated, so at least those steps are done. We just have to position the frame with the asteroid in view, obviously. Okay, this is where I was at before. See, I think that's what happened. So, the frame I took a minute ago, this star was way over here. I thought I was guiding on this star. I wasn't. I was guiding on a different star that was similarly bright, so I thought it was the same star. It's not. Okay, well that's my fault. So I can go down to a very short exposure and use these two stars, these two brightest stars, as my reference points, and then just reposition the image to be where we need it to be. Okay. Unfortunately, in order to get the Comet tonight, I have to use the full f10 focal length of the scope, which is extremely unforgiving for pointing errors. Even the slightest bit of misalignment causes a major problem when navigating. Now I got lost in space there for a minute. Okay, so alright, I need that star on the bottom to be near the top of the frame. And I need that other star that's currently in the middle of the frame to be in the guider. So we're just going to steer ourselves into the right position with the hand controller. Speaking of the hand controller, if you've seen my Twitter, then you know I have a new hand controller tonight. And it's working great. This is a replacement hand controller for the LX200 Classic, made by Clearline Tech. So the equipment I'm using tonight is an 8-inch LX200 Classic Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. This is a very old telescope. I've had it now for 16 years. The camera is an SBIG ST-2000XCM, and I'm using an AO-7 adaptive optics unit. Let's see, I need to come back. Come on. There we go. Took out the slack. The backlash should be about there. And then we bring that star up to the very edge, like so. Okay, hang on. Okay, so now hopefully let's check first with the autoguider if we do have the guide star in place. We'll go ahead and just start autoguiding now. And then oh man, that's if anything, that's a little too fast. We're going to do a 30-second image. We're not going to save this one. I'm just going to take this for reference and make sure we're in the right place. So the hand controller I've also had for 16 years is extremely worn out. Some of the motion control buttons barely even work anymore. They're kind of intermittent. You really have to press hard to get them to work, which isn't good. And you can't see the labels on them anymore. They're just so worn out. So I thought I was kind of going to be in the used market again. I picked up a replacement hand controller at one point, but found it was actually partially defective. So that was mostly going to be a spare parts hand controller, and I was going to get to the point of having to start using the spare parts. Oh, perfect. I can tell where the asteroid is already. Our asteroid is right here. Perfect. Alright, I'm not even going to take that dark frame. We're just going to go for the imaging now. Autosave on. We're going to do... yeah, we'll just do 2-minute exposures. Full 1x1 binning. Go for it. So, as I was saying, I thought I was going to be in the position of having to now try to disassemble my hand controller and possibly start replacing buttons off the hand controller I purchased, some of the buttons of which on the replacement hand controller weren't necessarily working either. That was going to be a really difficult, ugly process. Fortunately, one of my viewers here suggested that I go to clearline-tech.com because the guy who runs this business makes spare parts for LX200 Classics. This LX200 Classic, mine, is one of the last ones they ever made, and it was actually excess stock that was left over that I got on sale at a significant discount when they had already phased it out and they were phasing in the new models. And that was 16 years ago. So this telescope technology is quite old, and that's why you can't get spare parts for it anymore, until now. Clearline Tech does manufacture spare parts for a number of the parts on this telescope, including, most significantly for me, the hand controller. The hand controller they make seems to be 3D printed by the look of it. I guess I should have expected that. It's quite a bit lighter than the original. The other thing you notice right away is the beep. The tone that it emits is a lot softer than the original hand controller. For me, that's a major plus, because my rocket tracking software and my satellite tracking software cause the telescope to emit a constant tone, because it's basically executing a constant string of go-to commands, each one of which emits a beep, and when you do that constantly, you get a solid tone. My old hand controller made this really obnoxious loud sound, and there was really no way to silence it other than unplugging the hand controller, which is ill-advised. Fortunately, the new hand controller is actually quite a bit softer, so it won't be nearly as obnoxious now during rocket launches, so that's nice. The one thing I will knock it for, though, is that the keys on the hand controller of the original hand controller were all backlit. The new one is not. It does have the LEDs for the speed of the telescope, which is controlled by a series of buttons on the left-hand side. Those LEDs are all still there in the new version, and the fit and finish of it looks very similar to the original, at least at a superficial level. The buttons look identical to the original. It's a perfect replacement, honestly, but it does lack the backlight on the buttons. For my purposes, that's okay, especially since I typically use a head-mounted flashlight, so not really a big deal. But for some people, that might be a significant downside of the new version, or the replacement hand controller here. But like I said, for my purposes, I don't really care all that much. Yeah, the focus is good, maybe not perfect, but for the purposes of getting this asteroid, I don't think I care. We're not going to get a whole lot of images on the asteroid tonight. We're not going to try to make a really beautiful picture, because it's just a moving dot of light, is all you can see, really. The asteroid's right here, if my sky chart is correct. And it has moved since I first started looking at it before I started setting up the webcast tonight. So, after it takes a 2-minute dark frame, it'll take another 2-minute exposure, and hopefully we'll see some motion there in the asteroid's position. I'm going to reposition things here while it's taking the dark frame. Going to try to move the... Nope. Nope, move. Just want to move it. Okay. This way I can see the auto-guider and keep an eye on the asteroid as well. So now it's going to take out all these colorful hot pixels. Perfect. it's going to continue taking images. So hopefully in this next image we'll see some motion there. 4 minutes will have elapsed since the previous image due to the dark frame. So we should see its position change. And really my objective for tonight with this asteroid is just to get some data on its position to be able to independently calculate the orbit eventually and show that no, it's not going to impact Earth. It will miss us by about 16 times the distance to the moon. But there are some tabloid level conspiracies out there that are saying otherwise. I don't know why, but the neighbors are like having a party tonight, inviting somebody over. Would not advise that in the current situation. But, yeah, whatever. Bringing a whole bunch of kids over, having a party. Not the time to do that. People. It's like they're going for a hayride or something. It's weird. So I apologize for any noise in the background. Hopefully that will go away shortly. Oh, and a super chat from Andrew Kroll for $1.99. Wait for it. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Sorry, I'm just now getting a chance to look at the chat. How about a quick photo of Venus? Yeah, not tonight. Don't have the planetary camera attached tonight. Alright. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Did you guys see that? That asteroid moved quite a bit in those 4 minutes. I'm very happy to see that. Yeah. We've got the asteroid. Cool. So this asteroid is definitely not visible to the naked eye. And we will get to the Comet next, but I just wanted to get some position data on this asteroid from tonight. So this asteroid's currently magnitude 14 according to Sky Safari Pro. You probably couldn't even see this in the eyepiece of most telescopes. It really does take long exposure deep space astrophotography like this to be able to reveal it in most amateur telescopes. And from Leroy Jenkins, what about the coma? Is it going to affect Earth? No, the coma of the comet is definitely not going to affect Earth. Yeah, Corona vacation. It's weird. It's really weird. I hope everyone's staying isolated and safe. Yeah, they just loaded up a van full of kids and drove off. It's so weird. Like, I know the family across the street has kids, but they're inviting, like, the neighbors' kids to come over and play and have a big party. This is not party time, you know, but I get it, you know, kids gotta have some fun, gotta play. Hopefully the neighbors' kids are also staying in the neighborhood, isolating themselves and not getting themselves sick. Ugh, anyway, will this comet affect us in any way as it passes us? No, definitely not. The comet is going to stay more than 3/4 the distance to the Sun away from Earth. The minimum orbit intersect distance of Comet Atlas is greater than half the distance to the Sun, so it's not even going to pass through our orbit. Its orbit is not intersecting our orbit, so we are not going to be experiencing any meteor showers or debris from the comet. The comet could break up right this minute, and the debris still would not reach Earth. So, oh, we got a satellite streak. Satellite streak through, and the asteroid over here. Pretty cool. Let's see if I can figure out which satellite that was. Nope, it's not coming up on Sky Safari Pro. It's a mystery satellite. So probably after this image, we'll move on to the comet and get to the good stuff, right? But I wanted to get some time on this asteroid, so I apologize for burying the headline, but this was a useful little detour. Oh, thank you, Amy Wood. Well, I'm glad I can be providing some education during this time of quarantine. Will it be visible to the naked eye in the future? Yes, the comet will be visible to the naked eye in the future, in the very, very near future. In fact, according to Sky Safari Pro, it's showing it at magnitude 7.7 right now. I don't know how accurate that is, but that is almost right at the limit of human vision, where if you were at a dark sky site away from city lights, under perfectly pristine skies, and you were a trained observer with your averted vision, meaning you're not looking directly at it, you're using the rods of your eyes, not your cones, that are less sensitive, but the rods that are not sensitive to color, but they don't give you color vision, but they give you sensitivity in low light conditions. They're more prevalent around your peripheral vision. So if you use averted vision technique, you could theoretically see it. It's right at that limit. However, because it is a diffuse object, even then it may not be possible, just as it hits the theoretical limit of human vision, because the light is actually spread out over a bit of an area. So it may need to be a little bit brighter than that, even for a trained observer to see it from dark skies. Oh, good to hear that, Raybot. Thanks, I'm glad I can spark some interest. So yeah, you can definitely see that asteroid moving in each image. That's kind of cool. Maybe one more image here just to make it a nice uneven 5 images on this current run. And then we'll move on to the comet. So, I'm not getting any kickbacks from Clearline Tech, by the way. I'm not being sponsored by them at all. But I do have to give him props for this excellent product, this replacement hand controller, for a reasonable price. I mean, less than I paid at one point on the used market for spare parts hand controller. I now have a fully functional replacement LX200 hand controller. The only missing functionality is the backlight on the keys, and I don't know, I will definitely trade that for a fully functional hand controller where the motion keys aren't broken and the labels haven't completely fallen off and all the rest. So if you go to my Twitter, Astroferg, you'll see side by side of the original hand controller with this one. Alright, now I'm going to get ready to go to the comet. But before we get to the comet, I will refocus the telescope just to make sure everything's perfectly in focus. Alright, we'll stop taking the images of this asteroid now. That'll be enough for now, just enough to give me some tracking data for later. By imaging it over multiple nights, we should be able to get an independent calculation on the orbit of that asteroid. So next time I do a Comet Atlas stream, we'll get a few more images of this asteroid and then move on to the comet like we are tonight. That's the plan anyway. It's a good plan, I think. Alright, so we will now go to a much brighter star, HR 3323, and refocus the telescope. That'll get us pretty close to the comet, and then we'll move on to the comet. No, I kind of take it back. It does... I should, in full fairness, give him credit. There is a slight backlight to the keys that I see now that it's darker, but it's not as bright as the old one. Definitely not. You really want a head-mounted flashlight to be able to clearly see the keys that you're pressing on this hand controller. The hook they give you with it is not that ideal either, but there are holes in the back if you want to take the original hook off the original controller and reinstall it onto this one. I might do that at some point. It's just a little trickier to hook it onto things than the original. But at least it is the exact same size as the original, and so my muscle memory of where the keys should be is perfectly fine. Okay, here's our focus star. Seen the data from the asteroid impact and sample gathering video yet? I saw the stuff Scott Manley posted today. Is that what you're talking about, the Hayabusa mission? That was pretty cool. Slick. You can't buy my AO-7. This is my baby. I love this AO-7. It's fantastic. I got it on the used market for like $100. I mean, dirt cheap, especially for something that cost like $1,500 back in the day. All right, let me center up the star a little bit more. Oop, too much. Managed to overshoot it pretty good there. There's a little bit of lag between my key presses and what happens on screen. Okay, there we go. Throw the old focus mask on there. And let's see what the story is. Well, we're not too far off. That's good. That means those asteroid pictures probably came out good. It looked like they might be a little fuzzy, but it's hard to tell sometimes in CCD soft. It really is. I've got a solution for that, though, that will be coming soon. My own processing software for viewing the live images. Yeah, that looks perfectly in focus, I'd say. Everything's perfectly symmetrical about that. What features tilt? How many warp cells? No warp cells. It's not like a segmented mirror or anything. It's just a single mirror. It's a tilt tip mirror system. And yeah, the AO-7, like I said, you can get one on the used market for real cheap. They now make nicer AO systems from SBIG. AO-8, AO-L, not like the online service, but AO-L, the adaptive optics system. For larger format cameras. I'm not sure what the latest one is, but one of those ought to work with their current cameras, I would think. Haven't really looked into it because their current cameras, brand new, are definitely out of my price range. So I tend to stay around in the used market for these things. And I'm honestly happy with the equipment I have right now, so. Yep. good. That is the not good thing. Okay. Plan B. This comet will be the death of me. Okay. Alright, so the situation as it stands at the moment is that I can't get to the comet just yet. In the camera's current orientation, it will collide with the mount before it reaches the comet. The comet's too far north, and it may have thrown out the alignment of the scope. That's not good. Darn it. Alright, let's see. Can I get lucky? No, I don't think I can. Okay, alright. So, okay. So the situation I'm in right now is the camera did collide with the mount briefly. Fortunately, I was deliberately setting the telescope to drive at its minimum speed, so it didn't damage anything, but it did throw things out of alignment, at least digitally. So I need to figure out where we're at and then realign things a little bit here, so bear with me. We're definitely gonna have to rotate the scope, and I'm gonna have to recalibrate the autoguider and everything, because it will not reach the comet in the current configuration. It just won't. It's gonna make picking a guide star very difficult. There are very few good choices at the moment. So I need to solve this image. And figure out where we're actually at. We are lost in space. So the easy way to fix this problem is to simply upload it to nova.astrometry.net and have them tell me what coordinates I'm actually pointed at versus where the telescope thinks it is. Then take that into account as an offset. And go to where it needs to go to get the actual star we're trying to go for. So I'm trying to point to Capella. I'm obviously not pointed at Capella, hopefully somewhere near Capella. I need to set precession to J2000 because that's what the astrometry is going to give me. And then look at where Capella is versus where I'm actually currently pointed. So I'm seeing where the telescope thinks it is, and then we're going to go to where the telescope actually should go and realign on Capella. So bear with me, we're going to have to do some stuff. Yeah, astronomy ain't easy. Astrophotography is very hard. Deep space astrophotography is doubly hard. So it's solving the image right now. Hopefully it comes up with a solution soon. It's circling the stars. It ought to come up with a solution pretty quickly. There we go. Success. Okay, so here are the coordinates I'm actually pointed at versus where the telescope thinks it's at. 5/1640. It's pretty close. Oof. No, it's not too bad. It's only about 20 arc minutes off. 45:5946 is where the telescope thinks it is. It's actually at 45:3950. The field of view, though, as you can see, is only 20 by 15 arc minutes. You could only fit a small portion of the moon in this view. I mean, the moon is 30 arc minutes wide, so it's very, very unforgiving at this magnification of any pointing error. And I just induced a bit of pointing error by colliding the telescope with the camera. So, easy to fix. I just need to tell the telescope you need to go up 20 arc minutes in declination and another 7 arc seconds positive in right ascension. Okay, we should now be pointed at Capella, if I've done everything correctly. Perfect. Alright, we are practically centered on Capella, but I will center it a little bit better. Okay, that was way too much motion. Oh, man. Forget how sensitive this is at this magnification. We are just... oh, man, we're just zoomed in there. The slightest, I mean the very slightest tap of the button since this star flying. Okay, that's good enough. Okay. I've recentered the scope so it knows it's pointed at Capella. Now, I'm going to have to rotate the camera to a different orientation. And I'm just going to have to try to figure out, first of all, before I do that, what orientation shall we go to? Really, the question is, what guide star can I find? Man, I don't even have the focal reducer on there. I thought I'd have more clearance without the focal reducer, but it's not good enough. So I need to bring the camera that way. Alright. Let's see what I can get away with. If I go to like 45 degrees thereabouts, what can I do? What can I do? I can almost do that, but that's terrible. No. Nope. Okay. Alright, I think I know what I have to do. that thing again where I somehow caused the auto guide or the adaptive optics to go crazy. Still doing it, darn it. All right. I don't know. Doing this before, exercising it and centering it, fixed it before, but it's not fixing it now. I'm gonna have to. It's just challenge after challenge tonight, but we'll get through it. I'm gonna have to do something crazy. I'm gonna have to disconnect the scope, power it off, turn it back on. Not disconnect the scope, disconnect the camera, turn the camera back on, reconnect the camera. Alright, reestablish temperature control. Go to -10 as before. Alright, man. Just having the worst luck tonight. I still don't know what causes that with the adaptive optics unit, but it's not a happy fun time, that's for sure. Okay, so Capella's still in view, pretty close to center, but now we need to recalibrate. So I gotta take the slack out of the gears, and we'll just have to deal. We'll just have to find some guide star that we can go off of when tracking the comet. Just gonna have to deal with it. Okay. Calibrate the drive. So I gotta recalibrate everything now. So I'm just using this star Capella for drive calibration and adaptive optics calibration. The close approach of this comet is going to be about 3/4 distance of the sun, a little bit more, about 0.78 astronomical units. And the closest orbit intersect, the minimum orbit intersect distance is about 0.6 astronomical units. So it's not going to get all that close to Earth. We will not be in the coma of the comet. We will not be in the tail of the comet. There's a lot of silliness going around online, trying to stoke up fears for this comet, but there's nothing to be afraid of. This comet is not a threat to Earth. The tail points away from the sun. There's never a point where where the comet is directly between us and the sun. So, it's not a threat to Earth. What about the magnetic pull? The comet doesn't really have much of a magnetic field, except for the fact that its gases are being ionized by the sun, and its ion tail can be influenced by CMEs and magnetic events passing through the solar system. But no, it's not going to do anything to our magnetic field or anything like that. its gravity is minuscule. It's a small object physically, which is why it has such a large coma and tail. It can't gravitationally hold on to the dust and gas that it is emitting, and so it just keeps expanding. Yeah, we'll view it basically side on. Okay, so not fully side on, but enough that we can see the tail. Alright, so let us now get going back to the comet, hopefully this time with less panic. Alright, here we go. Okay, now we should be pointed at the comet. However, I have a feeling that because the camera collided with the mount, it may have torqued things in such a way that that's not really the case. Especially at this magnification, it is just so unforgiving. So, let's just take a quick picture, see what the situation is. Okay, I can see almost nothing. What we'll do is we'll do like before. We're going to take a 30-second picture. I'm going to astrometrically solve it, figure out where we're really pointed, and then do the offset. Put in the offset and get us right on course. Okay, so epoch. We'll go back to J2000 on Sky Safari. Oops. Okay. We don't need the dark frame. Alright, we'll save this picture. Hopefully Astrometry.net can solve this. I'm not even going to try to figure out if we're pointed anywhere close to the right position or not. We're just going to upload this straight to Astrometry.net and get our results. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. One sec says Atlas will be at its perigee on May 23rd, 2020, at a distance of 72 million miles or 160 million kilometers from Earth. Yeah, something like that. That sounds about right. I think in terms of astronomical units on it right now, so. But that sounds roughly correct. You wonder if I know what I'm doing? Referring to me, Marvin? I know what I'm doing, trust me. It's been a little bit of challenge here and there getting here tonight, but we'll get there. Don't sweat it. We'll get there. There's nothing wrong with being lost in space for a bit. That's what I've been meaning to watch on Netflix. Everyone's talking about Tiger King, but I want to get caught up on Lost in Space. Yeah, more around 2/3 of an AU. Yes, that's correct. About 2/3 of an AU. Well, more than that, actually. Closer to 3/4 of an AU, really, for close approach to Earth. Close approach to the Sun, perihelion, will be about 1/4 of an AU. Try Nina software for capturing plate solving, so much better. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there are better options out there, but this is free, so free's good, right? Maybe if Nina's free, I don't know. I guess I should look into other things. I'm set in my ways when it comes to deep space astrophotography. Alright, it's solving, it's solving. What's my light pollution right now? Dominated by the moon, which is just past first quarter by the look of it. And definitely throwing off some moonlight tonight. Not as dark as it has been on my previous webcasts on this comet. But that shouldn't affect things too much. I think the comet's bright enough at this point that we'll still see it quite easily in the images once we get there. Let's check the source extraction image. I mean, that looks decent. I could take a longer picture just for fun, just in case it needs more of a solution. More stars to solve. Oh, did we have... No, we didn't quite have a solution there on that one. Though, I've learned my lesson. Bringing up other windows while this camera's trying to take pictures is a no-no. It ruins the quality of the picture. So, I may have just destroyed the picture it's taking right now. I don't know, it's some weird Windows incompatibility, but it does happen. This is taking so long to solve. It's having trouble. Probably because of all the noise in the image. It needs more stars. I went for 90 seconds instead, so we'll see what happens here. Four, three, two, one, and new image downloading now. Just increases the signal to noise ratio, but let's see. I'm gonna try another trick. You can tell Astrometry.net. Oops. I need to save this. Save. Okay. And then I'm going to give it the rough coordinates as a starting point. That will help it solve faster. Settings. RA is going to be, what's 7.65 times 15? Calculator. Times 15, 114.75. Come on. The deck is going to be 68.44. We'll give it a radius of, I don't know, 5 degrees. That should be plenty. upload. Still doesn't solve this other one. That's crazy. Well, pretty sure it'll solve this one. Okay, stop this. We'll save this one too, because this has got the dark frame taken out. So 2 dark. Alright, there we go. That should really solve. It really, really should. So now I've given it the rough coordinates to start searching. That narrows it right down to where it needs to look. In the meantime, I'm gonna see if I can figure anything out here based on the star pattern. What we're seeing. If this makes any sense. Don't immediately recognize it. Come on now. You got a lot of stars here to solve off of. You should be able to find it. Come on. Give me a break. This one still hasn't solved, and this other one's going to pass it anyway, so I'm going to initiate a new upload with the dark frame subtracted version. I'm surprised it's giving me this much trouble on a solution. Usually it's a lot faster than this. Give it a slightly bigger radius just in case. Should not be necessary. This one's got the dark subtraction on it. This one is still not solved yet. Amazing. Okay. And just to hedge my bets, I'm going to do this as well, in case I did something wrong there on the coordinates. I don't think I did, but do this a down sample by a factor of 4, so it's got fewer stars to try to deal with. That can help it out too, sometimes. And I'm going to resume my search of star patterns to see if I can figure it out. Astrometry Net is just being real slow tonight. I don't know why. Wait a minute. Is this anything? Almost looks similar, but not really. Okay. Got this. How about this? Okay. Okay, I figured it out. Just by... Okay, well, I've already figured it out, but Astrometry Net finally figured it out, too. Okay, so here are my actual coordinates. Beautiful. And I just figured it out in Sky Safari Pro too. I recognize the star pattern now. I see where I'm at. I'm just off from where I need to be on the Comet. It's not too far off field. In fact, I can pretty much just... But no, we'll do this proper. So, let's see. Current epoch, let's go to J2000 on Sky Safari. So I'm saying with Sky Safari, I'm at about 740.30, 740.07. Okay, that's close. But okay, I need to be, here's where I need to be. Okay, that's going to be 739.30. So I need to, so I am 30 arc seconds, or 30 seconds of right ascension too high. So I need to subtract 30 seconds of right ascension. I am 9 minutes, or 9 arc minutes in declination too high. So I need to subtract 9 minutes from where I need to be. So 30 seconds in right ascension, 9 minutes in declination. Got it. Okay. Alright, we should be on target now. Close to it anyway. That was quite the detour, but finally figured it out. Okay, now I've got something I can work with here. Yes, we are on target. The question is, does the autoguider have its target? I'm threading a pretty fine needle on this one. Oh, no, I don't want you to take a picture of the image. I want you to take a picture of the autoguider. Where's the autoguider picture? Okay. Try again. Where is the autoguider? Oh, the autoguider window is over here. Okay. So, no, I don't quite see it. Don't quite see it. But this is not entirely unexpected. Like I said, I'm threading a pretty fine needle, and judging by this, the stars I'm going for are just a little too far down. Okay, so I need to move things up in the image a bit. This way a bit. Come on, take up that slack. There we go. Okay, keep moving this way. Okay. Let's see if we got anything now in the autoguider. Nope. Darn it. Darn it. Darn it. Okay. The comet's in the field of view. That's not the problem. The problem is just that we need to get the stars for auto-guiding in view. Try to get this working here. Alright, let's try with the auto guider now. See if I've got my guide star in view. Okay, well, I've got something. It ain't much, but it's something. Okay, so alright. If I can do that. I can do that. Okay. So I'm going to reposition this star that's in the auto guider down to the bottom left corner. And that will put us in the ideal place for imaging. This is going to be real slow guiding tonight. The adaptive optics unit's going to be doing its best, but it's not going to be as efficient as it normally is because our guide star is really pathetically dim. Normally I like to guide at a very high rate by carefully planning out a bright guide star to use, but the brightest star available under the current configuration is 11.4 magnitude, which is really not great. Even at 1 second guiding, that's going to be kind of dim. Let's see here. Okay, so if I do 1 second guiding, what am I dealing with? Yeah. Manageable, but a little dim. Also, there's a dead pixel right there, because of course there is. Okay. Reposition things just a tad. Let's see. Okay, that's better. Alright. We'll have to live with that. We'll autosave the Comet. We are going to take images with the imager. We're going to take 2-minute images, binning 1 by 1. And away we go. Alright, finally, at long last, we are taking pictures of the Comet. Actually, I'm going to reset that. Okay, wait for that to settle up. Okay. Alright, let's see what that gives us. So the bright dots in the bright dot in the autoguider window, the little window, the really bright object is the star that we're guiding on, which, if I've done things correctly, should be TYC 4361-0142-1. It's in the TICO catalog, and it is extremely dim at around magnitude 11.35. Oh, and the Comet has now moved into a new constellation from last time, from when I did my last webcast. It was in Ursa Major. It is now in Camelopardalis. So it's changed constellations from Ursa Major into transitioned into Camelopardalis. It hasn't actually changed position all that much. It just crossed the border fairly recently. Don't hit the pier again. Yeah, exactly. Especially with the camera. I was overly ambitious. I was thinking I could orient the camera 90 degrees from normal to get a brighter guide star, but that did not work out. So we're having to settle for a dimmer guide. Actually, not really that much dimmer. I think it's about the same as before, but in a different orientation, which is not as favorable for the Comet's position in the image. So the Comet will be off-centered now, but we got to do what we got to do. Making some sacrifices here to be able to get this Comet tonight. Oh, the focus looks terrible. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. There's the Comet. Yeah, the focus looks a little grim. I don't know. I don't know if I'm happy with that. That is to say, I'm not happy with that. Okay, well, there's the Comet. Trouble is, I need to check the focus on the scope, because it really does not seem well focused. It could be that it's just the guiding is not as sharp. The adaptive optics is not able to work as effectively, because it's got a much dimmer star to go on. I mean, that is possible. Problem is, there is not an abundance of really bright stars to use. There's one over here that's magnitude 5.7, which isn't great, but it might be enough, and it's not too far to travel. So we're gonna abort that, and we're gonna abort the taking of the image. Stop taking a dark frame. We're gonna stop that. We're gonna stop that. We're going to go to a nearby star using the same offsets. Fortunately, I already have the offsets. Oh boy, I forgot what they were. I should have written it down. I think it was, the main thing was 30, it was 9, that's right, it was 9 arc minutes in declination. It was 30 seconds that I had to subtract in right ascension. Okay, so, same should apply to this star. Should be pointed. It's just one thing after another tonight, isn't it? We should be pointed at the focus star that I picked. Yes, we are. Thank goodness. Okay. So now I'm going to throw the focus mask on. Use the magnifier tool to give you a magnified image if you get the time. You mean on the Comet? I can do that. Okay, so as you can see, we are pretty well out of focus here. Need to change that. Okay, first of all, we don't need subframe on for this. Second of all, I think it went the wrong way. Nope, nope, other way. Man, it got really out of focus somehow. Mirror flop is a thing. It's better. It should be pretty close there. Assuming I didn't overshoot. I think I overshot. Well, crap. Okay. Tweaked it in the middle. So it's gonna be terrible. Okay, it's gonna expose auto dark. And then it'll take a new frame. We'll see where we're at with the new frame. Always the other way. Yeah, that's how it works. You get a 50-50 shot, it's going to be the other way. Especially tonight, my luck's just not good. Oh. Okay. Let's see what happens when I don't touch it in the middle of the exposure. Okay, it's getting better. And I'm just making tiny, tiny adjustments at this point. Yeah, sorry about the interstate. The microphone's pointed right at it because of how I've got the table set up tonight. It's just convenient for me because of the way the telescope's oriented relative to the table. That's pretty good. Maybe just a hair more. Just the tiniest bit. Barely felt it move there, so hopefully I didn't overshoot. Okay, let's see what happened. Please tell me I turned off autosave. Yeah. That's good enough. I'm going to say that's good right there. We flew just a little over to get back on the Comet now. Let's see, auto guides. Just take a picture with the auto guider. 1 second. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Okay, let's go back to Imager. 1 second, 2x2. Okay. See where things are. I know where things need to be. Alright. Far worse noises than traffic, like peacocks and their horrible mating calls. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, yeah, the interstate's relatively close. You would think there'd be less traffic in the middle of a quarantine, but whatever. As of midnight tonight, which is 36 minutes from now, we're supposed to have like a stay-at-home order here in Florida, so people are supposed to be staying in their homes at this point. But, of course, not everyone's going to listen. Okay. Now, I see our intended guide star, at least what I plan to use again. And I'm going to move it into position. In theory, it should work better since I just focused the telescope. Unless something's going real wonky with the telescope and it's just losing focus automatically. This star should work better. Should be more pinpoint and give a better signal-to-noise ratio. Even though it is very, very dim. Oh, I said stop. Abort. You saw me click it. Okay, take image. And I'm even going to say, we'll go to 1.5 seconds. What's a half second between friends? So, we'll do even slower guiding, but I just want to make sure we don't lose signal-to-noise ratio on the star. Oh yeah, that's decent for a signal-to-noise ratio. Okay, autosave. I'll call this Refocused Atlas. Imager, 2-minute images. Here we go. Let's try it one more time. Alright. Hello, Ziggurats. Ziggurats? Sorry, Ziggurats. I can finally relax, finally sit back and breathe for a moment. It's been go, go, go this webcast, trying to get everything aligned and focused and working properly. But we're finally on it. So I'm hoping, by the way, with the images collected tonight, to do a video showing how to calculate the orbit of a comet. I've written some new software for measuring the coordinates of the comet automatically. Well, not really automatically, but formatting the observations automatically. It's not really intended to replace or compete with Astrometrica. That is like one of the gold standards of astrometry software that's out there, but requires a little manual tweaking to make it really go. And I like just being able to dump my images in Astrometry.net software on my machine, get the solved images, and then just load them straight into software and just click, click, click through them and have formatted observations just pop out very fast. So it's intended to sort of be a streamlined pipeline to getting properly formatted observational data. It's not intended to get photometric data or measure the apparent magnitude of anything. It's not, I haven't written anything for doing that. It's just purely to format astrometric observations, the coordinates of the object, for loading into programs like FindOrb to solve for the orbit. So that's what I'm going to do. Hey Cheshire, good to see you. Can we see your location live? No, I'm not going to give you my location, sorry. I'm literally in my own driveway here, and prefer not to self-dox myself. I am in Florida, I'll say that much. And for solving the orbit, I'm going to use a site that's close by, but not that close by. A little bit wrong deliberately, so that I don't dox myself. Okay, well, we have Comet. Let's reposition things. Okay, not that much. Not that much. Okay, I want to be able to see the autoguide star, but also see the comet. Okay, so there we go. Comet is on the right. And yeah, it's pretty close to the edge of image already. Nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. I've got the guide star pretty much crammed all the way down in the bottom left of the image. So this is the limit of what I can achieve tonight. At least the stars are a little bit better focused than they were before. Even now, I feel like it's not quite as tight as it could be. And I don't know why that is. I literally just focused the telescope. This is so weird. But I'm probably being overly critical on myself. You guys probably don't care. It probably looks fine to you guys. But to me, I feel like it could be a little tighter. So anyway, the Astrometry software lets you load up the observations once they're astrometrically solved. You click on them and it looks at the header data on the FITS file to determine the time the image was taken and formats the observation for you for solving the orbit. So I'm going to do a video all about that software using the images collected tonight and during my previous webcasts on this comet to get a pretty good orbital solution. Okay, that doesn't look so bad when you take away the dark frame. When you take away all those hot pixels and cleans up the noise in the image, it doesn't actually look too bad. I think the remaining residual softness of the image is just down to the tortoise-like guiding rate that I'm operating at. 1.5 second guiding exposures. I normally have guiding exposures that are a tenth that length, and so I'm normally making 10 times more corrections per second, which makes the image sharper. It compensates better for the atmosphere and any drift, but I just don't have any good options tonight on guide stars. It's just not... The comet is not in a good position in the sky, so I'm just doing the best I can. This is the only guide star I have as an option, and the comet's way off center, and it's going to go off to the right side of the image, down and to the right here. So, I don't know. It looks like it's even closer to the right portion of the image than I thought it was going to be. So we might have 2 hours on the comet at best before it leaves the frame. So yeah, it's not going to be an all-nighter tonight. And I got to work tomorrow anyway, so... What's the reason for space confetti? Well, if you're referring to the colorful pixels, those were hot pixels. Just effective pixels on the camera. It's now taken a dark frame to subtract those. Yeah. Oh, no, oh yeah, you see that now. They're hot pixels, yes. So now we're getting the next image. We'll see this comet position jump quite a bit because of the dark frame subtraction. So there we go. The comet is in motion. Don't forget magnifier. YouTube's compression means the image on our end. Compression smears. Oh, smears the image at our end sometimes. Otherwise, yes. Okay. Well, I can try to magnify more. Zoom in and enhance, right? Well, not really enhancing, but zooming in. About as much as I really care to zoom in, if I can avoid doing more, because I'm already suffering pretty bad there with the color noise. Okay. What's the geometry going to be during closest approach, brightest period for the tail? So the tail will be pointing away from the sun, of course, but it's not, the comet's not between us and the sun, so the comet's tail is not pointed at us. This seems to be a common misconception, and I should explore this further in a later video where I break down the comet's orbit. In fact, that's kind of what I intend to do. Once I solve for the orbit, using all the astrometric data I've collected over the last few webcasts and tonight's images, I want to show people that the comet's nothing to be worried about. It's not coming all that close to Earth. It's not even like the tail's going to brush us, and honestly, if it did, it wouldn't do anything. Halley's Comet came basically between us and the sun over 100 years ago, and people freaked out about it. People thought the tail was going to poison our atmosphere, because already back then, astronomers knew that there was cyanogen gas, cyanide gas, in the atmospheres of these comets. And they knew, of course, that's poisonous. However, it's extremely tenuous, especially at the distances that we're talking about here. And so, the number of actual particles hitting the atmosphere of poisonous gas is so insignificant that it doesn't matter. And so, people freaked out, people bought snake oil, people bought comet pills. They were selling comet pills 100 years ago for Halley's Comet, and, you know, some people were concerned about it, but, of course, in the end, nothing happened. It didn't kill the planet, it didn't kill anybody. It didn't harm anything. It didn't matter, because it's too tenuous to matter. So, the very premise of it is flawed, but especially flawed in this case because the comet's tail is not going to be pointed at Earth. It's pointed away from the sun, and we are not behind the comet relative to the sun at the time that it crosses our orbital plane. And it's really that point, the point where it crosses the ecliptic plane, that the tail would be pointed at Earth's orbit, but it's not pointed at Earth. Earth is not there at the time. And the tail consists of, the tail we're seeing right here in these images is basically the dust tail. This is a tail composed of small dust particles that have been emitted by the comet as it outgasses. The comet's gravity is so minuscule it can't hold on to them, and they float off into space, pushed by solar radiation pressure and the solar wind. So those particles are easily influenced by solar radiation pressure. That means they're not very big. We're not talking about huge chunks of rocks in the tail. It's not like a Hollywood movie, okay? These are fairly small particles. They would burn up in the atmosphere very easily. So, the debris left behind by the comet, occasionally you can get fireballs, yeah, but that's where meteor showers come from. When we're encountering a meteor shower, what we're encountering is debris left behind by comets, but it leaves it along in the path of its orbit. And so the orbit of the comet has to intersect Earth's orbit in order for us to experience a meteor shower from that comet. The comet doesn't have to be there at the time, but it's left behind debris that spreads out over the orbit, and we run into it, and that's when we have a meteor shower. This comet's orbit does not intersect Earth's orbit, so it's not going to give us a meteor shower. Full stop. So no, it's no threat to Earth. It's not going to affect the Earth. It's going to be too far from the Earth for the coma to envelop us. Even if the coma expands to be significantly larger than the Sun, it still would not be nearly large enough to bridge the distance between us and the comet at closest approach. Alright, so in 10 seconds we should get the next image of the comet, and we should see some motion once again. Let's see what it looks like. Beautiful. Yep. Comet's in motion. Stars are staying still. Yeah, never a good guide star where you need one. Actually, the last couple webcasts I've been lucky. There have been very nice, bright guide stars nearby that I could pick from. But tonight, not so much. Not so much. Just not lucky this time. And actually, tomorrow night would have been much better as far as guide stars go. That star I just focused on a few minutes ago before starting imaging the comet would be available as a guide star tomorrow night. It'd be perfect as a guide star tomorrow night. But unfortunately, well, you know, I say that. The other problem is the mount clearance is very, very low on this comet. So, although that star would theoretically be possible, the camera would have to be oriented pretty much the opposite way to where it is tonight. And I don't think it would clear it. I bet that would result in another mount collision. So I think that's the situation I'm dealing with. I'm pretty limited because the comet is so far north that this Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope is almost looking through its own fork arms. It's almost perfectly vertical on its mount, essentially, but it's tilted because it's parallel to Earth's axis of rotation. But the telescope tube is almost perfectly in line with the fork arms at 68 degrees positive declination. It's only 22 degrees off from pointing at the north celestial pole. Here comes the next image. Beautiful. Great. And so there's very little clearance off the back of the telescope for the camera to sit. And the camera can only sit in certain orientations, as we learned the hard way tonight. Yeah, there's a few YouTubers scaremongering about this comet, and that's really unfortunate. I heard rumors that there's supposed to be a second object traveling with the comet, according to observations that were from last night. Francis Walsh was covering that. I don't know what he was seeing. I'm going to zoom out, actually, on this next image, and we're going to look for anything moving with the comet, anything around in the area with the comet. I don't think there's anything, but we'll look. We'll see. There is a faint fuzzy over here. This is known. I was going to look for this. This is a galaxy, PGC 2717024. Magnitude 15.9 galaxy. any filters in my optical path? No. With the adaptive optics unit attached, I actually don't have a way of attaching filters to this camera. This camera is a single-shot color SBIG ST-2000XCM. It does have a threaded slot for filters by default, but I have to take that threaded piece off when I attach the adaptive optics unit, so there's actually no way to attach filters. I could get a separate filter wheel to install midway between the adaptive optics unit and the camera, but again, that backs the camera further off the back end of the telescope and actually would decrease the clearance for going to high declination objects like this. So no, I don't have any filters in place, or at the moment any way of installing filters in place with the adaptive optics unit on it like this. Okay, here comes the next image. Okay, the only thing I see moving is the comet. And we can check a time lapse afterwards. I can upload a time lapse, but I do not see any sign of anything else moving. Did anyone else? Anyone else see anything moving? I didn't. Supposedly there's a second object next to the comet moving with it. I don't see it. I haven't seen it in previous webcasts, and I don't see it tonight, so I'm always cautious about those kinds of claims, because that's how Heaven's Gate got started. Well, Heaven's Gate had been started a while before that, but that's how the beginning of the end started for Heaven's Gate cult. They thought a UFO was trailing behind Comet Hale-Bopp because an amateur astronomer reported as much on Coast to Coast AM, and thought he saw a UFO trailing behind Comet Hale-Bopp. Well, unfortunately, the cult was looking out for something like that, and they hung their hat on it. They thought that the mothership had come to beam them up, and that they had to get onto that UFO that was trailing behind the comet. And the only way to do that was to beam up by killing themselves. So that's what they did. Mass suicide. I don't know how many of you remember that, but I do. And it all started because an amateur astronomer reported what they thought was something trailing behind the comet, and turns out it was just a background star. Wasn't even anything moving. But, yeah. Give me a lathe, or at least make me some plumbing. I mean, there's no good option. It's just the way the fork arms are constructed. There's nothing I can do with the camera to make it fit better. Alright, here comes the next image. Beautiful. We see some motion of the comet. I don't see motion in anything else, though. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, that's right. Yeesh, yeah. Talking about people saying it's Planet X. Are people saying this comet's Planet X? Are we doing that again? Is that what we're doing again? Oh, I remember that during the ISON days and the LNN days. Maybe it's time for that again. Expected to be 4 times the width of the moon. If you're not expecting that, it's not fun. Well, it should be fun even if it doesn't get to be 4 times the size of the moon. I mean, I've heard all kinds of crazy predictions about it, that it'll be as bright as the moon. I mean, it could get really bright. It really could, but I don't want to hold my breath on that. There have been so many comets in history that have disappointed, especially in the last few decades. Comets that were supposed to get really bright, really beautiful, and then just fizzled out. ISON's a perfect example of that. So I wouldn't hold your breath on it. But keep an eye on it, and hope for the best, you know? Claudia Albers never quits. Oh, dear. Wasn't she predicting the rapture was supposed to happen today or tomorrow? Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's somebody who claims that there are cities from Planet X floating in the skies. Is she now claiming this comet is Planet X? I haven't paid attention to her lately. But I've heard all kinds of crazy stuff. Giraffes are aliens from Planet X. SpaceX rocket launches at night are debris from Planet X hitting the atmosphere, and the rocket launches just to cover for it. I mean, I've heard all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, please, not the Nibiru nonsense and reruns again. That's what it feels like. Just reruns, retreads of the old stuff all over again. And nobody can ever give me the coordinates for where to look for Nibiru Planet X. That's true, except when they claim it's a comet. Because at least then you can look at the comet and say, well, there's a real comet there, but it's not Planet X. She's on her 5th rapture date. You know, for some reason, I have a feeling that's not sarcasm. Oh, my. I feel pity. Just pity. For her, and, I think it's clear by now that she's dealing with severe, profound mental health issues. So, yeah, I think even her husband, Scott Cohn of Planet X News, at this point realizes that she's not the golden goose that he thought she was, for just making up free content for Planet X nonsense. That her stuff is so far off the deep end that there's very few people who will follow her off that cliff. And so now he's distancing himself from her. Boy, that's, given his history, that's a scary thing as to how that's going to end up. Was visible through a telescope in daytime sky about 7 degrees from the sun. A guy hid it behind a chimney and photographed it in midday sun. We're talking about Comet McNaught? Oh yeah, Comet McNaught, visible to the naked eye half an hour before sunset. About 2006, I think. Yeah, it was... Gosh, has it already been that long? I guess it has been. I remember that. I didn't get to see it during the daytime. Wish I had. Hopefully this comet will put on a repeat of that for those of us here in the Northern Hemisphere. Yes, the good Eric Briggs is on the chat, not the moon flipping upside down every night guy. Which, by altitude azimuth, I'd say the shadow, the Terminator on the moon, looks to be about 45 degrees tilted. See? Earth's tilting out of whack. No, that's just field rotation. And the telescope's polar alignment seems to be working well tonight, even if I did knock the mount a bit there with the camera. Wanting to feel special sometimes overrides logic. Very, very true words. Very true words. I just hope that going forward, fewer people will fall for that desire and will allow reason to dictate their course. But, you know, I mean, even Claudia Albers now still has followers, which is really kind of a sad statement. IR filters in daytime with a sensitive imager, no IR block, are great fun. Yeah, very true. Thank you, one sec. I'm glad you're enjoying the images here of Comet Atlas. Moon is waxing gibbous. 68% full. Yep. Looks a bit past first quarter. Waxing gibbous now. Throwing some light pollution into the sky, but not too bad. I mean, the comet's pretty far from all that, so it hasn't impacted the image too much, I don't think. As it gets brighter, though, as we get closer to full moon, it will drown out fainter details, though. The Final Days channel is trying to outdo her. Really? I heard something about that channel, and I haven't really paid attention to it yet, but I guess there's always a new upcoming upstart that is trying to claim that mantle of doomsday predictions. For no reason. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, Jay. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it tonight. What is this mini moon I keep hearing about? Are you talking about the temporary moon of Earth? There was something about a asteroid that was in a temporary orbit of Earth. I kind of forgotten that story a bit. That was a while ago. They discovered that and announced it. Zipper sound? No, Cheshire. That's just me leaning back in my lawn chair here. It just kind of creaks sometimes. It's not a zipper, I promise. Wish I could see your setup. Well, that's a great question, Sleet. I can take my phone here and take a quick picture with the Google Pixel phone of the setup and show that. I've done that over the last couple streams and it's been pretty popular, I think. So I'll do that now. Small moon next to the moon recently in the news. I think you're referring to that asteroid that was temporarily captured by Earth's gravity. I don't know if it still is, or I think it's still captured for the moment, but it's not permanent. There are certain asteroids that can do that. There's also, I think, been some space debris, including an Apollo upper stage that was temporarily passing by Earth again. It was maybe temporarily captured before being released again, sort of perturbed out of Earth's orbit. So I'm going to grab a towel to throw over the computers here to prevent dew from forming on them. And I'm going to turn on some Stellar Drone music for you all to enjoy. I'll be in the chat answering questions. And yeah, we'll probably go for about 1 more hour before the comet leaves the edge of the field of view, whichever comes first. And then wrap it up. I will be doing more streams on this comet, though, as it approaches Earth. So stay tuned. and a $20 super chat from Sleet towards useful filters and better mount plumbing to support them. Thank you, Sleet. Appreciate it. Alright, so I'm back. Just got done taking a picture of the setup with my Google Pixel phone. So I'm going to load that into the stream now. You can see the moon in the top left corner there. These pictures are quite high resolution. Crazy thing is they're technically higher resolution than the super expensive deep space camera I'm using on the telescope right now. But that camera does a better job when it comes to long exposure deep space photos through the telescope. Still, the Google Pixel Pixel 4 is rather impressive in its astrophotography mode. I get better results using this than I do straight out of my Canon T5i camera. So there you go. There's a view of the telescope from right now, actually just from a couple minutes ago. Looking out into the stars, and got the moon in the top left corner there. I want to be able to keep an eye on the guide camera, error values, and the overall exposure. Just move that over so I can keep a track on the countdown on each exposure here. And Geist has joined the chat. Hey Geist, yeah, I saw those pictures you posted to Twitter. Most impressive. Is that the sunflower there? Yeah. Very nice. Very nice pictures, Geist, to you. Holy light pollution. Yeah. The moon is making the sky quite bright tonight. But at 2 meters focal length, actually, the sky background level's kind of darkened by that anyway, because the scope is at such a high focal length anyway. Yeah, it's a busy bunch of metal, alright. Bunch of cables going everywhere out of the camera and the telescope. Interesting. Interesting hot take from Kenneth Schultz in the chat. Deep Space Cam, same as Gamer PC, just cruddy equipment called something hype to sell. Megapixel and light sensitivity always rules. I was actually wondering when there was so much noise in something. Well, this equipment, the ST-2000XCM that I'm using, yes, there's noise, but it's not showing you the full dynamic range of the images. It's automatically scaling these images, and so it ends up amplifying the noise in the individual exposures, which is why you need to stack many exposures to make your final picture. It's not exactly super new equipment either. This camera's quite old, and I bought it used. I've got a spare one that I also have used. The AO-7, bought it used. So I get this stuff mostly on the used market to save money. And on the used market, it costs about the same as a standard SLR camera, but it's much better for deep space work than an SLR camera. It is quite sensitive, and it's thermoelectrically cooled. It's currently at negative 10 degrees Celsius, and it holds that set temperature so I can calibrate it very precisely. So it's actually a fantastic camera for doing this kind of work. Geist has even more expensive, better equipment, but even with older equipment like this, you can still get good pictures of things like this comet out of it. Yeah, in the top left corner you can see the moon, and you can see all the moonlight filling the view in the Google Pixel picture. That's a wide-angle picture, so it's going to show, it's going to show the true state of the background light pollution level. But when going for a relatively bright comet like this, it's not a showstopper. Conditions are not as ideal in a number of ways as my previous webcasts were on this comet, but still pressing ahead anyway, and getting some astrometric data on this comet to be able to refine my orbit calculations on it even further. I don't have a glare shield installed at the moment. That would be smart if I had a dew shield I can throw around it. I used to have a dew shield, but I threw it away. It deteriorated and fell apart. The seams on it just came off. This scope I've had for 16 years, and the scope has outlasted several of the accessories I've bought for it, that being one of them. That being one of the first, in fact. Did I get my joystick to work after you told me to put it on ice? Ice? Is that supposed to be a reference or something? No, I did get the joystick issues worked out with Red's mount. My mount's fine. It doesn't have any issues. But Red's mount was having some issues. Well, the Nexstar mounts in general, both my Nexstar and his Nexstar were having a little bit of an issue with stuttering. But I took care of that. So that was solved. Just a tech nerd. Fair enough. Fair enough. But I really don't think this camera is overhyped or anything. It's quite expensive. It originally retailed for about $3,000. So you pay a pretty price for resolution, particularly in astrophotography like this. These cameras are not like your standard everyday consumer camera. They're thermoelectrically cooled. This one even has a water cooling option on it, much like a gamer PC, I guess you'd say. So it is top-end hardware, but it's top-end for a reason. What the heck? Roger Saris? I don't know. Really strange message there. I don't know what that's from, but we're gonna just put that in timeout. I don't know. Sounded like some sort of doomsday prophecy thing there. Sorry, this is not the channel for promoting doomsday prophecies. This comet is not doomsday, and it's not an ill omen. It's just a comet. There's lots of comets out there at any given time. This just happens to be the brightest one at the moment. Guys, now don't get me in trouble, man. Don't get me in trouble. I just apply to be an astronaut. I don't need rumors floating around about the weird things we talk about on this channel. I put him in timeout. If he keeps copying stuff, yeah, hit him with a hammer. The thing is, YouTube now judges channels for monetization, not just based on the content, but also based on the comments. So, if you don't moderate your comments, and you've got misinformation floating around in the comments and stuff, and you just let it fly, you can get demonetized for it if it's not considered if the comments are considered not advertiser friendly. So, a bunch of hooey about this comet getting posted. Yeah, I'm not too cool with that. I'm happy to answer questions, but if you're just here to proselytize about the end of the world regarding this comet, no, that's not what we're here for. Drop the hammer. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of weird hype about this comet. I mean, the comet itself has its own hype in a very real astronomical sense in terms of the magnitude, the size of it, all of that. And we'll see. Maybe it'll pan out, but, I kind of thought that about Comet Ison at the time, too, and followed that in the lead up to its fizzle out. But I'm still happy to follow this one, even if it does fizzle out, because for right now, it's a happy little comet. It's making a nice little show in the telescope. So, why not? It's a good chance to track it, and follow it, and webcast it, and even write some new programs for handling the images of it. Because I've collected a ton of images, and a ton of data on this comet now, and I'm going to keep collecting more, and sort of refining my software against it. Will it be visible from the southern hemisphere? Eventually, yes. After perihelion. Possibly well after perihelion. Like later this year. It will get down to the point where it will be visible in Canis Major and Orion and that sort of area. So if you can see Orion, you'll be able to see this comet eventually. But it may be fading by then. The YouTube is a harsh mistress. Yes. Yes, it is, especially these days. I have my own... You want to talk about conspiracy theories? I've got my own theories on that, too. Imagine for a moment you're Google/YouTube, and you want to demonetize channels that could be problematic for you. Well, as you can see, they're cracking down, and they even say they are, on channels, not just based on the content within the videos, but on the comments. Well, wouldn't it make sense for them to also at least categorize what they consider to be trustworthy sources and not? Not by what you produce, but also by what you consume. It's a tough one to prove, though, but I have kicking around in my head for a while an idea for writing a program to test that hypothesis. Because that's something I don't think they've publicly admitted, but I have a sneaky suspicion that they may be categorizing conspiracy channels not just based on content produced, but content consumed. So if you're like me and you research what claims are being made about this comet, and all the silliness that's going around about it, and you consume a bunch of those videos, well, of course they're going to recommend more of those videos to you. But they've now got you, what they think they've got is a beat on you, that they know you like conspiracy videos, because you consume a lot of it. What they don't know is why. Their algorithm's not going to know why you're consuming it, that you're doing it so that you can make videos like this, addressing the issues and debunking them. So they might pigeonhole you based on that. Just a theory I have. Can't prove it, don't know it for a fact, but just a theory. I think it'd be interesting to test anyway. Challenging for sure. In your comment, pick the top left corner if you had felt a shadow on the scope so you blocked out more moonlight. Scope rose like a cam rose to sunlight. Not quite sure. Are you asking if I put a shade on the telescope? Because I haven't. I currently don't have a dew shield to throw around the scope. But it really doesn't... I won't say it doesn't completely matter, but it really doesn't matter that much at this focal length. I'm at the full 2 meter focal length. That tends to darken the background of the sky a bit. And you're looking here at a very, very tiny area on the sky. So the background light level is spread out over the pixels in such a way that it's not too elevated. The background light level is not too elevated. It's okay. I mean, it's not as ideal a condition as it was, you know, several nights ago when I did my last webcast on this comet. But it's not too bad. I think if you go back and you look at my last webcast on Red's channel on this comet and then this webcast, in terms of the quality of the image of the comet, you're not going to see that much difference. Yeah, Google's AI never gets you, Andrew, because it can never figure out what you like. I get that too. Like, I'll get these weird recommendations, and you know, the funny thing is sometimes I'll click on it, and sure enough, in the comments, what do I see? I see a bunch of other people asking the same thing. Why is this in my recommendations? They just suddenly will push like a weird video that has nothing to do with your interests, but they think you're gonna watch it, and then it's like self-fulfilling prophecy. You do watch it because it's such a weird recommendation, and you find out other people are watching it too because it was a weird recommendation, and so that must be how it got in your recommendations, because it's like a vicious feedback loop. If you push this channel up in the algorithms, a kitten gets a can of tuna. Your choice. Thank you guys. Hey, we got a nice little, I think it's cosmic ray strike here, just below the comet. Kind of looks like a triangle. Hey, it's a TR-3B UFO maybe, right? You don't watch it when they recommend you a weird video, Andrew? It's probably smart. Don't reward the algorithm for bad choices. Well, thank you for subscribing to my channel, Andrew. It's great to have you here and your expertise here to rely on. Can we see Atlas better soon? Well, you know, that's been something I've been contemplating, is at what point do I switch to a wide-angle scope on this? Like the white telescope you see to the right side of my big dark blue telescope in the picture on the left, that is a wide-angle refractor, not a very high-quality one. I want to replace it at some point. Maybe with that extra money coming my way, I'll spend some on that, I don't know. But, yep. The 3 dots went away. That was a cosmic ray strike, which is why it was transient. So, yeah, at some point as the comet gets closer, it's going to get bigger in angular size, both because it's getting closer and the comet itself is also growing in size. And, it'll make sense to switch to a wide-angle view with a wide-angle telescope instead of through the main telescope getting pictures. I could even take my spare SBIG camera and mount it to the refractor at the same time that the camera I currently have running is running. I was even thinking about doing that tonight, but the problem is the counterbalance is not set up for that. The counterweight system is set up for a single camera being mounted to the telescope at any one time, not two. These are very heavy cameras. And that's also a lot of power to pull through that plug. I don't know. This camera's got a huge power brick. It's like an Xbox. And you're running two of those plus the telescope plus two laptops. It just gets to be a pretty heavy power load at some point. But, I mean, I am running off the outlet, so I could just run another extension cord out here. Not a big deal. But the big deal is really the counterbalance, the counterweight system. I need to load it up with more weight to offset the additional weight of a second camera. Or I need to basically build out a whole nother counterweight to throw on there. I don't know. It might actually get difficult to fit enough weight in the box I have right now to offset the weight of two cameras. I have to play with that. I have to investigate that. And I just haven't had the time to do that yet. So I didn't do it tonight, but at some point it actually would make sense to shoot some wider angle pictures. And when that happens, because the comet is growing in size, because it's getting closer, and because hopefully it will continue to grow and get brighter, the quality of the pictures will get better for me as well, because the comet is so much brighter, bigger, and easier to see. Yes, I have a mass problem, and I'm not even sure at what point I'll be pushing the payload limits of the telescope. I don't think I'll be pushing those limits anytime soon, because it is an 8-inch telescope, but it uses the same type of motors you would find on a larger version of the scope. So I think it's got some significant headroom for additional payload capacity. The key is just having it balanced. You always want to make sure your telescope's well balanced, because that's really what's going to strain the motors if it's not well balanced. If it's well balanced, it can take quite a lot of mass. Yeah, normally I can draw 15 amps from a power outlet and extension cord as long as it's all maintained well. Yeah, I don't think I'll be hitting that number necessarily, but I know when I'm running remote, for example, with my remote setup, like, it's tricky. It is really tricky to get everything powered on. It's like I'm in Apollo 13 and I have to do everything in a very particular order or it won't work, because the power spikes will trip the fuse on one of my power adapters for my lithium batteries. The big brick of a power supply for the camera is actually a bigger power drain than the entire telescope. Running the telescope's motors, for some reason, doesn't take as much power as the camera. It's just crazy. Mount, 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 says Sleet. Do I have a longer moment arm? I mean, if I put the second camera up on that refractor, depending on how I mount the refractor, it's really not a bigger or a longer moment arm necessarily. It's just more mass up top, and I've balanced everything right now, where with that refractor mounted up top, the camera mounted on the back, and the counterweight system mounted on the other side up front, everything is in balance pretty much. But if I throw another camera on there, it just throws off the balance, and it's going to put more weight on the top of the scope, which needs to be offset by more weight on the bottom of the scope. So it's just a matter of adding to the counterweight system. My counterweight system is a homebrew electrical junction box filled with lead fishing weights. And there's room in there for some more weights, I believe. So I could open up the box and stuff more weight in there. But there's not a huge amount of room. Like, at some point I'd have to upgrade the size of the electrical box I used to hold those weights. Or I'd have to just, finally cave in and buy a proper commercial system that has proper heavy-duty counterweights. Oof, the outlet got hot in your garage when you plugged in your electric vehicle. That doesn't sound good. But yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, you think about that. If it can charge an electric vehicle, although your standard 120 volt outlet, not necessarily the best option for charging EVs, but if it can do that, even slowly, then it should be able to handle a little telescope and 2 cameras and 2 laptops, you would think. Usually you can hear when the motors aren't happy. Yeah, very true. Very true. And I do try to run it. I don't know if it helps or hurts, but I try to run it at a slower slew rate when it's loaded up like this, like it is tonight, with a heavy camera, counterweight, and scope. Like I said, I try to make sure everything's balanced, but I also take it easy on the scope. I mean, there's a reason it's been running strong, knock on wood, for 16 years now. And yes, I've replaced some of the parts, but they're, you know, pretty minor. Things like cables to the motors, the cable to the hand controller, and now the hand controller itself. Those are the parts that have worn out, not the motors, not the encoders, not the really critical stuff. And I do have... Does somebody smell smoke? Yeah, hopefully not. No, I did smell smoke tonight when I started it up. I'm like, oh no, this new hand controller. I got this replacement hand controller fired up for the first time tonight, and I'm smelling smoke. I'm thinking, uh-oh, is it burning up? I sniff it. Don't smell anything. But I do have this general scent of smoke. And eventually I realized somebody either had a, I don't know, their fireplace going. I mean, it's not that cold out. It's a little chilly, but it's not that cold out. Or it was just a brush fire somewhere. But no, it was definitely like a wood smoke. It was not electronic smoke. Definitely had that wood scent to it. In fact, it reminded me, this is kind of oddly specific and weird memory, but it reminded me of Spaceship Earth at Epcot Disney World. I don't know if you've ever been on that, and I don't know what the ride's like these days, but years ago, like when I was a kid, there was this one scene in Spaceship Earth that you're going through like the fall of Rome, and they've got everything on fire, and you can smell what smells like wood burning, kind of, as you're going through that section. That's what it reminded me of, was that scent. Thank you, one sec. Cheers, yo Astro and friends, for interesting evenings. Hang a bucket of KFC. That's one option, I suppose. Just wrap a bucket of the Colonel's Best chicken around the scope for additional counterweight. But then the weight might mysteriously decrease over the course of the evening as the chicken just goes missing. Do you guys eat clawfish? Clawfish? Don't know. I eat crab. Somebody nearby was burning diodes and electrolytic caps. Oof. I don't know enough about electronics, but I do know that people report that the tantalum capacitors that come with this scope are not the best and should be replaced with electrolytic capacitors. Now, I did buy a refurbished motherboard and power panel for the scope that are currently running in it that have been replaced with electrolytic capacitors in place of the tantalums. My original unmodified motherboard is sitting in my closet. I've got it wrapped up. It's still good. Should still be good. But I was told that the tantalums have a tendency to go pop and break things and should be replaced with electrolytics. So that's what I've got now. Pretty sure I got that the right way around. It was to one or the other, but I think it came with tantalums, and then what I've got in there now is electrolytic. Roger's a confirmed troll. Kim Jong-un nutter? Interesting. Did he pop back in? I didn't see him. Facebook's blocking my link? Well, thank you, Donnie Dial. Appreciate you for trying to share it. That's weird. Facebook's blocking the link? I wonder if they think this is, like, misinformation or something. Have they got, like... Has Facebook now mischaracterized me as, like, a conspiracy channel or something? Because this is not what this is. I'm not promoting doomsday stuff on this comet. I'm trying to show it's just a normal comet. You might need to feed your hamster and your generator better or get him a buddy. Can hear little dude panting all the way over here in California. Who are you talking to there, Geist? Man, I must have missed something in the chat there. Oh, I've got top chat on. That's what my problem is. I always forget that. Switch it to live chat. That's a dumb feature. I hate that feature. I just want to see the whole chat. Okay, well, I must have missed something. I've now got it set on live chat. Facebook. Oh dear. Yeah, Facebook's got me badly mischaracterized then. Yeah, see, now this is my secret sauce strategy to get everyone to share it on Facebook by making them think it's going to be blocked. I don't know. I have no idea if it's going to be blocked. That's what somebody said. They said they tried it, and it was blocked. Donnie Dial said they tried it. Not me. Not Asian says they can share the link in Facebook messages. Okay, that's good. Sleep says, reminds him of a story, Dead Tech 7903 oscilloscope. Tore it all down. End result, one single tantalum popped in the guts. Oh no. So is that the deal? I mean, are tantalums considered to be more prone to popping than electrolytic capacitors? I really don't know. I'm not an electronics hardware guy. I play around with Arduinos sometimes and some Raspberry Pi stuff, but that's not my forte. Yeah, not an impact hazard, for sure. Yeah, it's no threat to Earth. That's what I mean. I mean, hopefully this will be an abnormal comet in a positive way. Brighter than normal, better than normal. Put on a good show, but not an impact threat, not a danger to Earth. Alright, guys, to you, have a good night. Yeah, I'm going to be wrapping up the stream here in a few minutes myself anyway. It's going on 1 a.m. here. So, in just a few minutes, we'll wrap up the imaging on this and call it a night. Let's see, we're on image 41 right now. If I can get it to, we'll put on a few more minutes. We'll get it to 45 images. That'll be a nice 90 minutes total of light collected on the comet. So that should be enough for a good stacked picture. I guess it was for group sharing that was probably blocked. Huh. So maybe it's just not able to be shared in groups, or maybe the group you were posting it in had a block on YouTube channels in general. I know I had that trouble with Reddit. One of the subreddits, one of the main astronomy or space subreddits, I forget which one, they have like a rule against YouTube videos. You're not allowed to post YouTube videos. Well, that pretty much rules out my content. You're allowed to post, like, regular still astrophotography, which is nice, and I do like taking pretty pictures and all that, but most of my content is time-lapse or video-based, rocket tracking, satellite tracking, these kinds of things. Not necessarily as well suited for stills and that subreddit, so I pretty much don't use it. It says, thinks some design engineers may underspec them. They should not fail if properly spec'd. Well, that could very well be with the LX200. As much as I love it, I do have to say that it's possible that some of the things were not properly spec'd on it. There's a whole history there that I should really dig into sometime, because it's fascinating. Like the fact that it runs on 18 volts. That's weird, you know. I think the newer ones run on 12 volts, which would be more standard. But I think there was some reason to do with the motors that they decided to run on 18 volts. And it feels like some of the things are not really spec'd for that. So that could be. And I think one of the big challenges with it was the power supply. And if the power supply runs anything over 18 volts, things start to go pop. Should just call it Comet Showtime. Yeah. The last couple images, I'm going to zoom out a bit and get a bigger picture view here going, just so I can see what's going on with the focus and all of that. Make sure it's all looking good. Looks like it is for the most part, so it still looks, the whole thing just looks a little soft, but again, I think that comes down to the auto-guiding limitations due to the dim guide star that I'm having to use. It's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. But it's what I got to work with. Zoom back in on the Comet now. So hopefully next time I'm able to do a stream on this Comet, we'll have a better guide star to work with. Tomorrow night would be good, except the guide star is pretty much requiring the camera to be 180 degrees oriented from where it is right now. Let me take a look at what that would mean for the moment. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's just not possible. You can't turn the camera 180 degrees from where it is right now. It will be in collision with the mount. So this Comet is really tricky. Really tricky to get. Not because it's dim or anything, it's just because of the logistics of trying to aim this far up in declination. Ohm's law. Yeah. No, that's true, Andrew. As to why 18 volt matters, yeah. I'm familiar, I have a passing familiarity with Ohm's law. Isn't this the one that hits Atlanta? No, this isn't hitting anything. One thing you will notice is that 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36 voltages are in steps of 6 for a very good reason. Oh, I see what Geist View was talking about earlier with the joystick thing. He was making fun of my hand controller replacement. I thought he was talking about my joystick for rocket tracking. He was on Twitter making fun of my new hand controller situation. Well, I like my new hand controller. It's a nice replacement part. And thank you to My Carolina Skies for recommending Clearline Tech on that. That was a good recommendation. What is my guide star? Well, I believe the guide star I'm using... Come on, Skysfari. Is Tico 4361-0142-1. TYC 4361-0142-1. That's the guide star. It is magnitude 11.35 according to Skysfari Pro. Quite a dim guide star for me. I usually like to aim brighter than magnitude 10. Somewhere around magnitude 9 or 8 is usually really good. So I can do high-speed guiding. Not possible with this one. It's way too dim for high-speed guiding. I think if I had some serious electronic engineering chops, I'd be on a list someplace. Maybe that wouldn't be a good list. I don't know. Like, I can play around with electronics here and there, but I don't consider myself an expert in it at all. I put together a homemade security camera system for my house using Raspberry Pis and some, infrared sensitive webcams and things. Oh, and I built probably the proudest project I ever put together, electronically speaking, was a 3D scanner that I used to debunk a claim that the hatch for the Apollo command, or the hatch for the lunar module was too small. And that video is on this channel as well. And that was just a fun project to play with, not just for that, but to scan rooms and buildings and things. I want to put that back together sometime. I scavenged it at one point for parts, but I'd like to try that again and maybe make some improvements on it. Use an IMU for measuring the angle instead of assuming the angle based on stepper motor commands. Anyway, yeah, fun little projects you can make with Arduinos these days. A lot of fun. Learned a bit about how to do Bluetooth data transmission. Anyway, here comes image number 45, and that's going to wrap it up for tonight. So this will be the final image I take of the Comet. Alright. And now I'm going to start packing it up. So, again, I want to thank everyone for coming, and hope you all enjoyed the stream on Comet Atlas. Again, I'll be doing more streams on the future on this Comet, and stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and check the bell for notifications. I'm trying to do a better job of giving a decent heads up on when I do these streams, but I do have to play it a bit by ear because it's weather dependent, of course. And even when the weather forecast says it's going to be clear, it isn't always clear. So I try to keep an eye on the weather so I don't give you guys a false alarm that I'm going to do a stream and then have to back out of it. I hate having to do that to you guys. So I try to make the decision fairly late in the game when I'm sure that we're going to have, fairly sure we're going to have good weather. Tonight was a good night for it, weather-wise. A bit of a challenge with the guide star and a bit of a challenge with the moon, but we got there anyway. We got some nice images there of the comet, so check back for more later. We'll see what this weekend brings. Tomorrow night, like I said, not really feasible just due to the guide star position. The one good guide star I'd have available is in the wrong place, so have to keep searching for that, but maybe this weekend we'll have an opportunity to view the comet again. And yeah, Andrew, when I get a chance, I will reach out to you. Sounds like we could, you could really help me out with some stuff, so that's cool. Yeah, fair point, Sleet. Be a lot more useful in a pinch on the ISS, so I guess I should brush up on my electronics, and in case they decide to interview me. Actually, there's other areas of focus I've thought about that I should probably work on, like getting scuba certified and learning Russian. Those are kind of critical, aren't they? So, probably be working on that. Alright, folks. That'll do it for this stream tonight. Again, thanks for coming, and hope you all enjoyed the stream. I'll post a video later detailing my new software for logging the coordinates of this comet from these images and show you how that process works for calculating the comet's orbit. Until next time, clear skies, folks.